Good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Can everybody hear me? Okay, you all are muted. My name is Juwan Block, and I will serve as tonight's moderator for the portion of tonight's discussion on what's your issue. I am going to be joined by a very dynamic panel very soon. But just before we introduce our panelists as well as our wonderful students, I would like to introduce Ms. Monica Turner. Ms. Turner, are you there?
I am. Thank you so much, Jawan. My name is Monica Turner. I'm the director of the Office of Engaged Learning and Student Support at Bowie State University. And I bring you greetings to Dr. Aminta Breaux, our president, to Provost Goodman. I thank you all for providing this opportunity for us to connect and engage with our students, our Bulldogs at Bowie State University. Since the pandemic really sent us into our homes back in March, we have been delivering education online through the summer. And then we returned to campus, and many of us are either working or attending classes. And with so much going on in our world, we wanted to be sure that we had very strategic opportunities for students to engage, for students to connect with each other and to connect with the issues that are happening. With the deaths of Breonna Taylor, with the death of Richard Collins III, with the death of George Floyd, there's just been so much upheaval in our world. And we want to acknowledge that our students at Bowie State University have ideas, that they have concerns, and that they want to impact a change. So our event tonight is going to present to you in two sessions. The first to discuss those issues. And we have a wonderful panel of experts in our local and national community that will give you some ideas about exactly what to do with regard to those issues. And then later at 7 p.m., we will break down the ballot so that once you are armed with those strategies for addressing your issues, you can take those armaments to the ballot box. And we will break down the ballot so that you'll know who's running for office in your local community, as well as what the voting experience is like. You'll get a chance to understand the security of your ballot, the many ways that you can vote to be sure that your voice is heard. So we thank you so much for joining us this evening. I want to say a special thank you to Ms. Janae Carpenter, who worked tirelessly to help us bring this event together, and to Mr. Jawan Blocker. Thank you all for helping us to reach our students and to connect with you, the Bulldog class of 2024, especially our 24 karat gold Bulldogs, to help us engage with you for Engage 2020 and Engage Learning and Student Support. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Ms. Turner. So now I am going to introduce our dynamic panelists. And I am going to start with Mr. Ryan Washington. Mr. Ryan Washington has graduated from the illustrious Bowie State University twice, first in 2018 with his bachelor's degree in history and government, and then in 2020 with the master's degree in public administration. Mr. Ryan Washington has developed a comprehensive understanding of the art and craft of politics at the local, state, and federal levels of government. He currently works for Congressman David Trone, and previously, while being a student at Bowie State University, he served as Chief of Staff to Maryland State Delegate Ron Watson. Our next panelist is Martin Mitchell. Martin Mitchell is a 2018 graduate at the illustrious Bowie State University with a degree in history and government. Mr. Mitchell is currently serving as the president of the Prince George's County Young Democrats, which happens to be the largest youth-led organization in Prince George's County, partisan political organization in Prince George's County. Our next dynamic panelist is Charnel Ferguson. Charnel Ferguson is a native of Prince George's County. She graduated from Bowie State University in 2018 with a degree in business management. Charnel is the founder of the Diamond Foundation, Inc., which is a nonprofit geared to help the community and to build self-esteem in youth while raising awareness on depression. She later served as the president of the Maryland State NAACP Youth and College Division. And currently, Charnel serves as the at-large executive committee member of the Maryland State Conference for the NAACP. She is also a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Our next dynamic panelist is Monica Roebuck. Monica Roebuck is a graduate of Bowie State University in 1999. Ms. Roebuck is a native of Prince George's County, Maryland. She received a Bachelor's of Arts degree from Howard University and a Master's in Teaching from Bowie State University in 1999. She is the founder and CEO of Community Solutions Consulting Services. This newly formed LLC provides educational, political, and business consulting to those in the community. Monica has worked for Prince George's County Public Schools for 20 years as a classroom teacher. During her tenure, she worked as a mentor and leader in the school system. In 2019, she was appointed to the Prince George's County Board of Elections, in which she is responsible for overseeing county and statewide elections. Our next panelist is Mayor Sean Mauldin. Mr. Mayor Mauldin is a strong community developer, activist, and business developer. Mr. Mayor Mauldin is the founder and president of the Mauldin Foundation. The foundation is a 501c3 all about making improvements to the community through education, business development, workforce development, and neighborhood services. As a business developer, Sean Mauldin operates one of the only few Black-owned American sign language interpreting agencies in America. He is also a nationally certified ASL interpreter, a Spanish interpreter, and a certified foster parent, and a proud vegan and vegan food chef. You can follow him at Taste of the Backyard on Instagram. And in 2018, he had the honor to be elected mayor of the great city of Capitol Heights. At the age of 32, making him the youngest in town's history, he currently serves as the president of the Maryland Black Mayors, Inc. Panelists, thank you for joining us. Ms. Turner?
So thank you, panelists, for being with us. Jawan is going to moderate the session and invite our questions to the front from students. We have some students on the session with us this evening, so we'll invite them to ask their questions and our panelists will give a response.
Thank you so much, Ms. Turner. So our first student is Brittany Davis, class of 2024. Brittany? Brittany, are you with us?
Brittany, if you can unmute.
Good evening. My question was, why is it that when neighbors see Black children outside, their first reaction is to call the police?
Thank you so much for that question. I'm now going to give our panelists an opportunity to respond. I'm going to start with Ms. Charnel Ferguson.
So one solution I would say is we really have to get back to that sense of community. And I know being on the national board of the NAACP, we have our Next Gen program, which the older leadership trains the younger leadership, and it's bridging that gap with the community And also I would suggest, Brittany, do you speak to your neighbors or?
No, I do not. They don't like to come outside.
Okay, so I would, if I was you, I would just introduce myself, tell the neighbors who I am, and try to build that community relationship. And also, I don't know if you all have a neighborhood association, or like Martin Mitchell, he's involved in the Prince George's County Young Democrats. So that would be a good organization if you're in the county. Or you could just start your own organization and just build that bridge of community, because they're going to be looking to you for your leadership, and that you recognize a problem and the solution would be to solve it, which is bridging that gap with the solution, creating an organization. You can do trash pickup days, you can do book bag drives, or anything that the community needs, but it's just bridging that gap between the younger generation and the older generation.
Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson, for your response. And Brittany, thank you for your question. Did any other panelists have anything to say or to respond back as far as the question? Nobody? All right, so we are going to move forward with our next question. Our next question will be asked by a class of 2024 student by the name of Yasmin Janetz. Yasmin, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, the floor is yours.
Well, yeah, my camera will not open.
Okay, no problem at all.
Okay. So can you repeat that, please?
Just wanted to give you the floor to give us a little background on your question, and then to feel free to go ahead and ask the panelists the question that you have.
Okay, so my question was, why do white people feel that young Black athletes do not deserve to be a leader? There's always an issue, regardless of what sport it is, in my county, that we always have either a Black coach or a Black athlete who gets a chance to get a ring or a reward, and the older white folks are not okay with that, to the point they will go to the board or they will go to the principal and have a lot of disagreement on how that is being. So that was a lot of disagreement with sport that way.
Hey, Yasmin, can you repeat your question one more time? It was a little staticky. Just one more
Okay.
time, please.
Yes. Why do white people feel that young Black athletes should not be a leader?
All right, thank you for your question. I'm going to give panelists an opportunity to respond.
Jawan, I'll take a stab at that.
All right, thank you, Charnel.
I would just say, for me personally, I played basketball, so I know there's a prejudice associated with it. And as Black people, we have greatness in the athletic field. So it's always a lot of, I would say, like an underdog situation. And to solve that problem, I would say it would be best to kind of create maybe a policy, or to speak to whoever is over that sports area or arena, and kind of trying to see what would be the best way. There's always going to be prejudice though. I'll just say that, but I would go about it with trying to build that relationship with those people, and maybe seeing, have they really interacted with people of color, or where is this narrative or this preconceived notion coming from? Because you're always going to have that. But I would just say that, you know, greatness is within all of us, and you really got to just keep it moving, even though people will doubt you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson. I'm going to move on to. Oh,
I was just going to
Yep.
add on to what you said. And I believe that a lot of people have implicit bias, so they have their own prejudices and they have their own like stereotypes within. And so we have our young people are great athletes, but they're also very well-rounded and they're very intelligent. And so we can't always lead with being just the athlete. We also are intelligent, we're smart. And so, you know, we have to show that side of ourselves as well. And just, you know, as Charnel said, keep it moving and to do the, you know, to do the right things in the community. But I think a lot of it is prejudice, it's racism, it's bias. But I think we also we shouldn't put ourselves in a box because there's so many things that we can do. And so I think we should groom ourselves to be the leader. It's not just being on the team, but actually being a coach or owning a team. And so we have to think outside of that box because they're used to seeing us in one way. But there's, you know, the sky, I tell my students, the sky is the limit. Reach for the moon because if you miss, you're among the stars. So you got to aim high.
Thank you, Monica. Martin Mitchell wanted to respond.
Yes. Thank you, Juwan. And that was a great question. And, you know, I guess I would start that segment with like, imagine if a generation of black athletes, you know, decided to go to HBCUs instead of PWIs. Imagine, you know, the change in dynamics that would be at the NCAA level, you know, like profiting off of like, you know, black athletes. And, you know, imagine if Zion Williams went to Hampton, you know, and started a trend, you know, things like that. So, I mean, that's one thing I could say. We could make, you know, these black athletes going to HBCUs more popular. I mean, because for one, from what I've seen, especially at the HBCU levels, they care about you more. You're not just a number. You're not as replaceable. You know, if you went to Duke, they just swap you out with the next man, the third string, the fourth string, whoever it might be. But, you know, as far as like, you know, being leaders and being sports figures, you know, like at the end of the day, who cares what white people think? Who cares what black people think? You know, if they are against you to prosper, you know, who cares? Your voice is your power. Your pen is your power. So, you know, don't let anybody like silence you or simplify like who you are. Like just because you're an athlete doesn't mean you can't be involved in social issues or with your community. And I don't think that mindset, you know, stems just from like sports. You know, you can hear it in, you know, music. Let's say, you know, Cardi B talking about politics and people say, just shut up and rap, or LeBron, just shut up and dribble. You know what I mean? But, you know, at the end of the day, like, I do agree with all of the other panelists as far as implicit bias, as far as, you know, getting to know your neighbors in your community, because a lot of times, you know, these prejudices come from like, you know, things that you're taught in the media, things that you're taught growing up, and you don't necessarily know these individuals. So, yeah, that's my point.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Oh, sorry.
No, just thank you.
No problem. Thank you so much. We are going to now move over to our next live question from another great student at Bowie State University, class of 2024, Miss Jada Logan. Jada, are you there?
Hi.
Oh.
Hello, how are you?
How are you doing? The floor is yours.
Great. So my question was, I would like to address the racism and how it is affecting the world and the community.
Absolutely. So your question is more geared towards how do you and other students at Bowie State University address racism at the local, state, and then also national level?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I think that's a great question. I'm going to open the floor up to our panelists to take to answer this very loaded question. Thank you. I'm going to start with Ryan Washington.
Thank you for that wonderful question, Jada. So that's a great question that you posed, because racism is such a systemic issue. It was built into the system since its inception back in 1787 when the Constitution was drafted. So, you know, addressing racism through policy, through protest, is one of the bigger and main components that, you know, you see a lot of people in our generation, especially Generation Zers and millennials, trying to do by going out protesting to make change. And unfortunately, you know, we have to use radical approaches just to get our voices projected, because sometimes these ideas, these systemic issues aren't being addressed when it comes to housing, when it comes to police reform, when it comes to just any type of financial or institutional issue that impacts people of color significantly. With this whole issue of COVID-19, you know, a lot of people of color don't have lack of access to healthcare, have a lack of access to the proper resources in their community to get the help. That's that systemic issue in itself. You know, people being affected. Black and brown people have pre-existing conditions. This is something that is very significant and important. So my question, my job would be is to continue to protest, continue to be active in these questions, to continue demanding from our legislators, because that's what they're there for. They're there to serve the people. We're not there to serve them. We're there to tell them, hey, this is a problem. You need to fix it. That's why we need more representatives that are able to be more in tune with the people, be able to understand and not just say, hey, you know, I'm gonna put up this Black Lives Matter sign just to let them be quiet. We need these issues addressed. And they're not radical issues that people think there are. These are issues that impact us because we are a group of people. We're human beings and our lives matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Washington. Oh, thank you. And thank you, Mr. Washington. Mayor Mountain.
Hello, good evening, everybody. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much to Bowie State University Trio. Thank you for the invitation to come. Thank you to Mr. Juwan Blocker, who is the Executive Director for the Maryland Black Mayors, and also Ms. Carpenter and Ms. Turner. Thank you so much, everyone, for what you're doing by hosting this sort of panel. Jay, that really is a great question. What can we do? And I'll tell you, anything that you can think of will make an impact. The reason I say that is because racism permeates every aspect of our lives, every aspect of everyday life and everything we do. And so I think because it's such a huge question, because the task is so big, you have to pick something small, I think, to kind of downsize it, understand that thing, and then move from there. So what am I saying? Right now, I'm saying that for me, I've decided that I have a niche. I have a task. I have a goal. I have a heartfelt passion, and that's for community development. So I do everything I can towards building development, and I learn everything I can towards building development and building community and community development. And then I have an angle at which I can personally make an impact in terms of racism and so many of the other issues that plague our society. So I think I would answer your question in a very tangible and direct, practical way by saying, figure out who you are. That's number one. Step number one, who are you? What is going to be your mark and your contribution in society? And as we're all students and we're all learning what we want to do in the world and how we want to go forth, if I can just figure out who I am and what I want to do, what's going to be my skill that I bring to the table, that I add and contribute and benefit to the world, then I can make an impact on things like racism because I understand things. And I also like to say, I don't want to take up too much time, but I also like to say this sort of panel discussion and other ways that we kind of can get involved with things that are going on where we're able to learn all that sort of stuff, and it will find its way to help us towards being able to make a direct impact to combat racism.
Thank you, Mayor Malden.
Charnel?
Yeah, I did want to. So I would just say for me, there's a chapter at Bowie State. They have an NAACP chapter, so that should be your first start. For me, I reestablished that chapter, and that's exactly what it was for accountability, and we have to demand change. This Black Lives Matter, this can't just be something that's once every few months we protest and then there's no action, there's no policy. So I would have some demands that you want to see happen, what you want to see change and move forward. Protest, okay, but what's next? Policy, is that what you want to build a coalition? What do you want to see change? So I would say ask yourself that. As far as police brutality, what do you want to ban? Chokeholds, excessive force? Do you want to look at that? They have plenty of task force. So I would just say, feel free to reach out to me or anybody on the panel and I could point you in the right direction.
Thank you, Ms. Ferguson. Monica?
Yes, I just wanted to jump in and thank you for that question. It's so important at this time. And as was mentioned, we've been dealing with racism in our country since 1619. And so our country was shaped in that. And so we need to be fully aware of what's going on and that it does permeate all parts of our society. And because of that, we will need to organize and we have to mobilize. And so what that means is get connected with a group, whether or not it's Black Lives Matter, or Progressive Maryland, or NAACP. We are stronger together than when we are separately. Okay, and so we do have to come up with a Black agenda. What are the things that within our community are important that we want to address? I also believe that we need to be fully engaged in the electoral process. We have to vote because that's how decisions are made. So we are a democracy. And so we have to understand that voting is how our government is changed through policies and procedures. So voting is the first step of changing things within our country through making laws and policies and those kinds of things. So we have to vote, but it doesn't just stop there. We still have to hold people accountable. And if they are not doing things that we want, then we have to vote them out. And then we have to raise up leaders who will address our needs and our agenda. And we have to have people who are willing to run to address our needs because it's our country. This is, our state. And if we're going to pay taxes, we're, as elected officials, we're paying their salary. And what sense would it make to pay their salary through taxes and we're not getting anything out of this? So we have to be clear about how this whole system is going to work, and we have to make the system work for us. In addition to that, to change racism, we need to try and build our own business because we have a capitalistic society. And so by having your own business, you don't have to rely on other people. You can generate revenue. You can provide jobs for other people within a community. So there's a lot that we can do as a community. And I think the first step is finding an organization that you can link up to. And there are many that are out there who have a mission, who are dedicated to ending police brutality and racism within schools and all of those kinds of things. And you can start right on your campus, by getting involved and finding out, what's going on there. But you have to be actively involved. You have to raise your voice. And you have to talk about what's important, and you can't be afraid to say something because this is really important. And you have so many years ahead that you have to be a part of shaping what your future looks like.
Thank you, Ms. Roebuck. And Mr. Mitchell, really quickly, if you wanted to respond, that's fine. And then we have one more student question.
Yeah, I'll keep it super brief. What Monica said was great. It was something I was going to say. It was organize. And organizing is important. But as she said, after you organize, mobilize. So mobilize the people you organized around the issues that you care about. If you find 5 students that care about that issue, you mobilize them around that issue, come up with the plan. And after that, like Charnel said, come up with demands. But the biggest thing is for me, when you're trying to get around the issue, is find coalition. So find organizations or find people that share that same sentiment. Like for example, for the Prince George's County Young Dems, we care about the P3 partnership, the public-private partnership in Prince George's County. So we partner with Our Revolution and we partner with Progressive Maryland to basically bring transparency and accountability on those issues and had certain demands. So instead of just one person, talking about P3 partnership, it's now our 3 organizations. So, like Monica said, definitely joining, like-minded organizations or organizations that share the same issue is a great idea. But as far as the criminal justice reform and everything like that, definitely protest the policy, organizing, mobilizing, but, not just accepting task force and work groups. We've done task force and work groups for years and years. So, the first thing we need is not a task force and work group. We need direct action.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Next, I am going to introduce our next live student question. Student happens to also be another 2024 graduate. Our freshmen at the illustrious Bowie State University are representing, and did want to thank them for being so courageous and coming on here and asking the questions that they are asking. Without further ado, I want to introduce everybody to Nija Simpson. Ms. Simpson, you have the floor.
Okay, hi. So my question had to do with my community's playgrounds and how run down and broken they are. So my question is, what can be done so that my community can have playgrounds that children can play on without there being any, dangers to it?
All right, thank you for the question. I am going to start it off with Mayor Malden.
I'm sorry, I need you to repeat the question for me.
My question was, what can be done so that my community can have playgrounds that children can play on safely?
So, what community do you live in?
I live in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. That's my community.
Okay. So I'm not sure how it works in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, but I have the honor of serving as the mayor in Capitol Heights, Maryland. And so let's say that someone was interested in having a playground in Capitol Heights, Maryland. They would only need to attend one of our town hall meetings, and we meet weekly. And so once they attend our town hall meeting and then they make the interest known, then we will make sure that it is funneled to the right departments within our city, and then we kind of make it happen. So in some areas, some jurisdictions, what you'll find that you need to do is maybe start a petition, or you need to organize a little bit so that there is some interest behind it, and you're not just standing alone with that particular interest. But numbers always kind of make it happen. So that's a good approach to take: gathering, organizing, and making it known to your elected officials, be it the mayor or the city council, and kind of just saying, hey, here's what we would like, in the community. If you're really interested in doing something like that, something that I recommend you do is get a hold of some of the properties that the community owns. So for example, every area city will have a list of properties that they own. And what I would recommend you do is pick out a good location for this particular playground that you would like. And if you're feeling really excited, you could even go and select some of the items that you would like to see in the playground, and then you put together a package. You put together somewhat of a proposal and present that to the elected officials. In my presentation, I would say we need a playground for this reason. It would help in this way, and it would help keep our kids active and healthy and fit and out of trouble, and it would give us something to do. And here are registered voters within the community who agree. This is a list of them. This is their name, their number, and a phone number, who also agree that this is what is needed. This is a benefit to the community. And I think if you were to pull all that together and present it to your elected officials in a very professional, organized way, I think you would make them stop and hear you out, because they have the resources, they have the means to make it happen. And with that sort of presentation, I think they would pull it together. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Malden. Does anybody else quickly want to and answer this question? If not, I have one more student. Alrighty, if not, I'm going to move forward. Again, thank you, Mayor Malden, for your response. Next, I am going to introduce another one of our great Bowie State University students, Sarina Leonardo.
Hello?
Are you with us?
Yes, can you see me?
All right, yes, I can see you.
All right, so my name is Serena. My question is littering a problem in your community? Because in mine it is. I live in South Bowie neighborhood, and every time I go for a walk or do exercise, I see a lot of littering in the sidewalks and the bushes, and this is a big problem for me just because littering is one of the one of the top 10 biggest problems to global warming. And as trash breaks down, it releases toxic chemicals into the air that we breathe, and it's such as methane and nitrous oxide. And it's a big problem to me just because we're causing it. Us humans can, we can literally just hold the trash and put it in our car and throw it off at the nearby trash can or something. So I just want to, I guess my question was like, is littering a problem in your community and how can we solve it?
All right, thank you for that question. I'm going to open it up to our panelists. Charnel, would you like to take the first stab at this?
Yeah, sure. I'll take a stab at it. I would just say, first of all, Bowie is a city. So you may want to contact the city office, but I know Prince George's, well, it depends on the road or the jurisdiction. But I would say contact the city offices. But yes, trash is a huge problem. And our county exec, she had the green initiative where I guess people organize to pick up trash, but maybe you can organize something since you see the trash in your community and start a group of Bowie State students that could clean that particular area.
Right. I was
Thank you,
gonna
Ms.
say the same
Ferguson.
thing.
All right, Monica.
Yes, I was just going to say the same thing. I live in Bowie and I hate seeing the trash too. And so if it's near my house, I always pick it up. I have my gloves and have my trash bag. And, as residents and citizens, we just have to take some of that responsibility to keep our area clean and, just to make it a nice place. And so you can also gather friends and people that you know to just maybe go out when you're walking and try to clean up around you. You can reach out to your city council person. Bowie has city council people and they also have at large. And so you can always call them if you live in the municipality of Bowie. And as you mentioned, it's not just a littering issue, it's an environmental issue. When the birds and the animals get into the litter, then it's a real big problem. But I think we also have to maybe think about penalties and fines for people who litter, because it's a real problem within our county. And when I go to other counties, I don't see as much trash. And so people need to be educated too about how harmful it is to the community and the animals and everything else. And I think, maybe we can set fines and stuff for littering because it really hurts the beautification of our county.
Thank you so much, Ms. Roebuck. Mr. Mitchell?
Well, I would say, the Young Dems, we like doing community cleanup. So we would definitely, be willing to partner with you to clean up in the area. But besides that, as Monica and Charnel mentioned, you should definitely contact your municipal leaders. And if it's on a state road, because some parts of Bowie are represented by the county, obviously then you would call someone like me. I work for the chair, Todd Turner. So, I hear from people in Bowie about, trash issues all the time. And, one of the other things that I would say is if it's like a really bad problem, maybe we can consider getting a no littering sign. Sometimes it's just, vanity, but sometimes it does help having that sign there. But also there's the option, Adopt a Road. The county has Adopt a Road program. So let's just say if you notice there's a real issue, you go to your homeowners association or your community association, or just you and a group of students, that see a problem. You guys could take on responsibility of that road, and then your organization's name will be on that sign next to that road, and you guys clean it periodically, kind of like taking a community responsibility. So those are just like a couple ways.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. And while I have you, since you're already speaking, can you just give an example of where I might go for this example, right? I am a resident in Bowie, not sure if I'm a resident of the municipality or just Bowie. Where can I go to figure that out And can you give it examples of maybe a couple of elected officials that might be on the city council in the city of Bowie that I could potentially reach out to?
I would say, all of the city council members have been pretty accessible. They have a very new council, very young council. So, Mayor Pro Temp Adrian's a good person too. But I wouldn't even really reach out to any of the council members. I would probably go to the city staff to tell you if you live in city limits, like Una Cooper. She's the city manager over there. So, that's probably like someone I would talk to. Una Cooper, and of course, if you find out it's at the county level, you could call someone like me because I would represent. I would handle the constituents in District 4 for Councilmember Turner. But if it was outside of there, then you would contact your state legislator for the most part, like delegate or senator. And you could look those people up at mdelect.net. That's a website that I use a lot to find out like who represents you.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. So what I've heard, just so that the students can understand as well, this particular issue, you would look up the city of Bowie if you live in the city of Bowie, and reach out to the town administrator. It sounds like, to see if you're in the city of Bowie, and then if you want to know who your state representatives are at the state level, can you provide that website one more time?
Oh yeah, let me drop it in the chat.
Okay, that would be even better. And with that being said, panelists, I would like to thank you all so much. I am getting ready to turn this over to Ms. Turner, and I would also like to thank our dynamic Bowie State University students for asking some very important and critical questions, especially given this day and age. So with that being said, again, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to Ms. Turner.
Jawan, thank you so much. Thank you, Serena.
Yes, thank you so much for your input, and Mr. Martin.
Yeah, this is really great.
Yeah, thank you so much. Like when I'm walking, I take a little bag with me, 2 bags, one for recycle, one for trash, and just throw it out when I get back to my house. And I live near the South Bowie Community Rec Center, so it's there's a lot of people just walking around. So, and I live right next to the city town hall, so maybe I should take my shoes there or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, thank you so much, guys.
That's great. It sounds like you have a future career in public life, in the public arena, in elected office, perhaps. So, in service. So that's great. I just want to thank you all so much for being here. Our students, thank you so much for those very thoughtful questions. I'm so proud of you all, just really for expressing those issues that are near and dear to your hearts. And even more proud of your willingness to come on live here and share those questions and hear these responses. To our panelists, thank you so much for taking this time seriously and giving your very thoughtful responses to our students. Mayor Malden, thank you so much for sharing those specific details about how to get connected. I love the very specific plan that you offered to our student to present a proposal about a playground in her community. We need to know the specific things to do. And who would think that I would go and choose the equipment or make the recommendations? And I envisioned, I thought to myself, well, what if a group of kids showed up in your office and were like, we need a playground? I thought, what better petitioners than the kids themselves, right? Who could say no? Right. So I just want to thank you all, Ryan, Mr. Washington, Miss Monica Roebuck. This is we're of course on part 1 of this event. So we're going to talk a little more with our community about the balloting and exactly what to do with that ballot. We have so much misinformation going about right now. There's so much out there that might try to deter us from participating, but we are going to participate. As you all have shared, our ancestors stood in long lines, walked for almost a day or more to vote. So far be it from us to walk away from this very sacred responsibility and opportunity that we have. So we're going to turn over the coin and catch everyone on the other side where we will talk about the ballot. Now, I must share with you all that we had a link that went out for this evening's live event, and it was the link was broken somehow. It was not working properly. So we're going to get you the correct link. And students, I definitely want you to share that part of the link, share our updated link so you can get it out to your friends and they can see part 2 of this important event. And then also this event is being recorded. So students, we didn't lose the opportunity to share all of your wonderful comments and your questions. We will share this video with our campus community for those who were unable to get in to our live feed. So without further ado, we're going to take a pause. It's now 6:48. We're going to return back to this space at 7 p.m. for part 2, breaking down the ballot. Thank you all so much for being with us this evening.